Hey there, welcome back to another video. This time around, it is my review of the 2009 action sequel, The Boondock Saints II, All Saints Day. Now, this is the sequel to the cult classic that is the first film, and I did like the first film. I know for some reason, because of the fact that I didn't love it or wasn't constantly praising it all the time in my review, I think some people got the message wrong and thought that I didn't like it. That's not the case. I did like the movie, I just didn't love it. This, on the other hand, I really enjoyed. I thought this was an improvement over the first film, and I actually think it's a better movie. I know for some that might be a controversial opinion, but that's honestly how I feel. This gave me everything that I liked about the first movie, plus a lot of things that I thought the first film was missing. Stronger villains, better action sequences, more consistent tone, and a more engaging overall story. And when this film delivers, it is badass. It really is. I do not understand why this film does not get more praise. I don't know why this is not talked about more. If you ask me, this is easily one of the more underrated sequels of the 2000s, if not one of the most underrated and overlooked action films from that decade. I think it's that good. When it comes to the action sequences, this film is amazing. The slow-mo is impressive. It doesn't feel like it's just half-assed or just thrown in there for no reason other than because it looks cool. And it's just one of those movies that's, for the most part, really satisfying and really entertaining. So Troy Duffy, he comes back as the director, and you can tell that he's learned more tricks of the trade. You can tell that he's become more consistent. You can tell he's found more of his own style. And you can tell that he's perfected certain things, like the slow-mo and the way that he shoots action sequences. With a bigger budget, he's able to do more things that he wasn't unable to do in the first film. And it really does show. The shootouts in this are epic. They're absolutely adrenaline blasts. And it's just a really badass film when it comes to these action sequences. If you go into this looking for the action, you're not going to be disappointed when you get the action. Because yes, there are some moments where it's trying to be more comedic, or it's trying to develop the story, or you're having flashbacks involving certain characters. And yes, in some ways, those sequences aren't always as strong as other more action-packed scenes, but it's still something that is ultimately worthwhile. And the style here is slick, and I really love the look of this film. In a lot of ways, it's reminiscent of Michael Bay, but Michael Bay with more talent, maybe more of an edge. And I just really appreciate the passion that Duffy definitely has for this franchise and for these characters. It definitely is something that appears on the screen. And I'd feel that this is just a more consistent film visually when it comes to the way that it looks. When the film is dealing with action scenes, or when it's dealing with more dramatic moments, or it's dealing with scenes that need to have more comedic timing, or sequences that are just trying to showcase the setting or create a certain mood. Overall, I think this film features some really great direction. Now, the screenplay by Troy Duffy, it's not as consistently great as the direction, but it's still quite good. For one, I like the overall story here. I like the fact that it does take place 10 years after the events of the first movie. And on top of that, you have this whole reason for why they are back in Boston. Somebody has killed a priest, and he killed the priest in the same execution style as the Saints did and left behind their calling card. So now there is this idea going around that they killed a priest, and that goes against everything that they believe in. So they come back, and the reason why this priest was killed is to purposefully get the Saints to come back so you can have a bit of revenge for Yakavetta, because Yakavetta's, I think it's his brother or his son, is now running the operation, and he finds someone on the outside to find a way to get the Saints to come back, because they'd been living in Ireland for the past 10 years off the grid. And so the reason for them coming back works. There's a bit of a mystery about who the killer is, which I thought was pretty effective. And then on top of that, you have a really intriguing and captivating backstory for the McManus brothers' father, Billy Connolly's character. So the film gives you a glimpse into his past, and then it also provides a reason why his past is coming back to haunt him in the form of another villain. And also, this villain is tied in with everything else. And I just thought it was a really nice touch, and I thought it was a really intriguing aspect of the story and was handled quite well. Now, there are some aspects of this story and the screenplay that aren't really as effective. For instance, the humor, once again, is very broad and very hit or miss. Whenever the McManus brothers are referencing movies or something, I do get a kick out of that because I'm a movie buff. Whenever they are having their brotherly spats, that is quite fun because there's a lot for them to sink their teeth into. But the stuff involving the replacement for Rocco in the crew, Romeo, I'm not a fan of. He's just Mexican Rocco, and maybe he's not as much of an asshole as Rocco was, but he's still not really someone that I thought was really that endearing or likable. He was still fairly annoying, and he did take away scenes from the McManus brothers, and I just wanted more with them, or more scenes with Julie Benz's character, who is essentially playing the Smeckler role as Eunice Bloom. But I just, yeah, I mean, the way Romeo's written, it's just one giant Mexican stereotype to the point where he's even wanting to take guns that have the Mexican flag on them and all this other stuff. And the character just didn't do anything for me. And I just don't understand why he was necessary. And there are other bits of comedy here that are, like I said, they're just too broad for my tastes. I know it works for some people, but everybody's sense of humor is different, and that kind of stuff just isn't really that funny to me. But it does have its moments, but really, I don't look at this as a comedy anyway. I look at this more as an action movie. And as an action film, it does not disappoint. The set pieces here are stunning. There's so many action sequences in this that are really quite uh, a spectacle. And I do feel the story in the script is strong enough that it does captivate you throughout. There's even appearances by other cast members and characters from the previous film. Smeckler even makes an appearance near the end. And overall, I thought it was a satisfying screenplay. And at the end of the film, I wanted more. And I still want more. I really do. And the cast. I mean, Sean Patrick Flannery and Norman Reedus as the McManus brothers, they didn't miss a beat here after 10 years. The chemistry is still there, and they're still believably badass. And they are given more to do here. They are given more scenes to flex their muscles. And I just love watching these two work. I love watching these two play off of one another. I love watching them blow people away. These two are a treasure in a lot of ways. They're really great together. And Clifton Collins Jr., he did the best he could, but he came across as a caricature or a cartoon. I didn't care for that. I didn't care for his performance. Um, Billy Connolly, he did a really great job too as Noah, because he had more scenes to work with here. There were some really great scenes with him and Peter Fonda, who has a role here as one of the main villains. And speaking of main villains, you also have Judd Nelson, who plays one of the Yakovettas. He plays Little Yakovetta, the son of Don Papa from the first movie. And I thought Judd Nelson was fantastic. Uh, I really feel that Judd Nelson is the kind of actor that the first one was missing with the Don Papa role. Julie Benz as Eunice Bloom, she really grew on me, because initially I was a little iffy about her because of the accent and this and that. But once the initial shock wore off with the thick Southern accent and the fact that Smeckler's not here and it's this other gal, I honestly started to really like her portrayal, like her character. Uh, she started to build a nice chemistry with the two brothers, and she had her own fun, snide sense of humor in terms of the back talk with the other police officers. And I really like the fact that when it comes to the sequences where she's inserted into the action sequences, because the film copies the same formula from the first movie, where you have the investigator who inserts themselves into the action while they are explaining what they think happened. And they do that again here, but there is almost a Robert Rodriguez kind of take on it, because it's very stylish and definitely more unique and different than the approach versus that was in the previous film. I don't know what the fuck my cat is doing. I guess he got into some crack earlier. I don't know. But but yeah, it's a really unique approach. I love the scene where she's dressed like a cowgirl and she's giving the investigators an idea of what she thinks happened in a firefight. And yeah, ultimately I did like her performance. I know it's something that a lot of people are kind of not that big on, but at the end of the day, I did like it. I thought she did a good job. Now, Della Rocco, David Della Rocco, he comes back in a flashback scene. Uh, he was there for me. Uh, Once again, it was one of those things where he was tolerable in a small dose, but I could care less. I could have cared less if he had a cameo or not in a dream sequence. Um, you have other actors as well, like Bob Marley comes back as Greenlee, David Ferry as Detective Dolly, Alapa Scalis, Brian Mahoney's back as Duffy. Um, And you have some newer characters here, like Bob Rubin, who plays Gorgeous George. I didn't care for Bob Rubin either. Like, it seemed like Bob Rubin was just. I thought it was the same guy who played Rocco, to be honest, but ultimately that wasn't the case. Uh, this guy was just obnoxious and did nothing for me. Thankfully, he didn't have that many scenes. And there was this whole big gag about him wearing pink speedos and shitting himself, and I didn't. No thanks. And try to think of anyone else that's worth mentioning. Oh yeah, I mean Peter Fonda in his role as one of the villains, the Roman. But yeah, overall, a good cast. Good solid cast. And I thought the score by Jeff Donna here was also better than the first movie. I couldn't remember much of anything in the first film, but the score here I thought was more badass. It had some more moments that really did enhance the excitement and the thrills. And on top of that, I also really liked the soundtrack. I really liked the original music that was used for the film here. Um, and it featured some nice looking cinematography by Miroslav Bazak and the editing by Bill Durand and Paul Campata. I thought that was also particularly well done. So yeah, overall, I really like this one. I would highly recommend Boondock Saints 2. I don't know what's going on. Apparently, all the cats have gotten into some crack cocaine, but okay. Uh, this is one of those days. But yeah, it's a really exciting, enjoyable, fun, fast-paced for the most part sequel, even though it's definitely a longer film. It's 117 minutes, and there are some bits here and there that could be cut out. Like, you don't need to have as much scenes with Mexican Rocco. You can cut those out and have more scenes with the McManus brothers or more scenes with Noah. Um, but overall, I was pretty happy with it. So anyway, I don't know what else to say about Boondock Saints 2 All Saints Day, except thanks for watching my review, and as always, I'll see you later. See ya.